All right, welcome back, everybody. Now it's time for a grassroots citizen panel. And joining me in studio, as he did previously, is world-renowned gynecologist, healthcare industry whistleblower, Dr. Bruce Lee. You were with us earlier. Good to have you over for the grassroots panel, Dr.
My pleasure, Rick.
Also in studio, as he was previously, is Chad Brown, CEO of Rocky Mountain Resources, energy and oil expert. Good to see you, Chad Brownstein. I said Chad Brown. Chad Brown. I said my football.
He's a good football player.
Yeah,
Played at the University of Colorado.
That's right, he did. He played at Boulder, then went on to the Steelers and Seahawks. Also joining us in studio is a guy with a haircut only a mother could love, and a progressive.
Thank you.
Jonathan Harris, liberal activist, columnist, reporter. Now, Jonathan, you know you made our separated at birth last week.
Oh, no, God.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw it with Cameron Diaz from Something About Mary.
Oh.
we know how she got her hair to stand. Did you get your hair stamped like that?
That's actually what I use, yes.
Okay.
It's very difficult to find products for it, actually.
Okay, I won't even comment there. Did not expect that answer.
I don't know if I'd admit that.
That's right.
Or do I?
All right, speaking of admitting, it seems like this White House doesn't want to admit much of anything. Ebola-gate, that's what's happening here. Now, the White House is pressing, as we discussed earlier, Dr. Lee, the White House is pressing states to end quarantines. They're saying the science does not back it. Let's start with Chad Brownstein. Chad, you know, we saw governors Cuomo and Christie of New York and New Jersey come out and put those individuals in a required quarantine, and now they're changing their policy based upon White House pressure. I realize you're not a medical expert. We'll at least say that for Dr. Lee, but does this flip-flopping, does it create more panic in the public or reassure the public?
Well, I'm going to defer to Dr. Lee, but I'll tell you something. We need states' rights. And states' rights on this topic are very important. We also need leadership from Washington. When you're flip-flopping, you're not getting leadership, certainly going to create more drama than needs to be. I think the states' governors are doing a good job staying on top of it. My view is we should leave it to the states. Dr.
Lee, we touched upon this earlier. Anything you want to add to this?
Well, I think I'm quite shocked to see this reversal. And I'm shocked to see the Obama administration set up this battle from the government versus states' rights. I think the governors were acting in the best interests of their populace. I think, however, that it's appropriate for the administration to provide information, whether it be scientific or otherwise, for the states. But to see that this was so readily and so quickly reversed, kind of under the table, was quite surprising to me.
It is surprising. Let's go to Jonathan Harris. You're not a big states' rights guy. You're not. You do believe the federal government knows all, is omnipotent. Here we had a Democratic governor in New York, a Republican governor in New Jersey, both with the same mindset. One went a little bit further than the other. And the president came in and said, you guys will do what I want you to do and stop this quarantining business.
Well, I mean, they still had the choice of whether or not they wanted to do it, and they made that choice. And I mean, I know that some people had criticized President Obama for saying, you know, we didn't need a czar, as some people interpreted, and then appointing one. I think people are doing the best they can with the information that they have available. And I think as more information becomes available, they change course. I just think it's interesting because it becomes bipartisan when Chris Christie does the same thing. It becomes bipartisan. It's no longer a political issue. It's just something that as we get better information, people...
That is the definition of bipartisan.
Well, I'm just saying it's no longer something you can play. It's not a political football anymore because both parties have participated.
Dr. Lee, you mentioned, Jonathan said he wants more information. And you said it's under the table. I wonder what it is that the White House said, did, threatened, promised, all the above, none of the above, to coerce those two governors to change their mind.
One of the ladies is filing a lawsuit, so I'm sure that has something to do with it. I think it's probably less President Obama and more, you know, wanting not to be liable. Sorry.
Well, but no, I agree. But and certainly the quarantining was taken to an extreme. Someone who goes over as a healthcare worker and puts their life in jeopardy and tries to help other people, comes back and then is quarantined and restricted and guarded in a tent. I think that was out of good intentions, perhaps, but certainly not the right way to accomplish what needed to be accomplished. Again, the Ebola virus is only contagious when symptoms are present. This woman clearly had no symptoms. She had no fever. However, she could develop it. Therefore, the prudent thing to do would be to restrict activity and contact with other people so as to protect them and protect her.
All right.
And then provide her with monitoring twice a day and for a period of time until she could be cleared. I think that makes good sense.
All right, let's switch gears now. You know, President Obama said if you are a business owner and you think you created that business, shame on you. That's foolish. Well, here's what Hillary had to say over the weekend to a group in Massachusetts.
Don't let anybody tell you that, you know, it's corporations and businesses that create jobs. You know, that old theory, trickle-down economics. That has been tried. That has failed. It has failed rather spectacularly.
There's Hillary pushing trickle-up poverty. Very true, he says.
True.
This is what's wrong with the Democratic Party, folks. The world is off its axis because this is what Obama is appealing to, that far left fringe side of the Democratic Party. There's Hillary Clinton promoting trickle-up poverty. We will get the reaction of our guest panels on the other side of this break. Stay with me. You're watching the Rick Amato Show on American News. But first, DNC Chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz watched her squirm out of a lie that President Obama was campaigning in U.S. Senate races. We're back after this.
What competitive Senate races is the president campaigning in?
Like I said, the president has been campaigning in competitive races.
But what competitive Senate races is the president campaigning in? Is there one?
There are races that the president is campaigning in around the country, and he's also governing.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are in the middle of our grassroots citizen panel. Now, just before the break, we saw the video of Hillary over the weekend speaking to a group in Massachusetts saying, businesses don't create jobs. She didn't say who does, but the implication is government does. Let's start with Chad Brownstein. You are a CEO of Rocky Mountain Resources, the energy industry. Let me say this. I do not believe that Hillary Clinton believes that, but I do believe that she's trying to pander to the far-left wackos on the fringe, which shows how much this Democratic Party in America has changed. It's not moderates any longer. It's not those with capitalism and limited government feelings. Your response to hearing what the leading Democratic presidential candidate, presumed candidate, saying what she said?
Well, first of all, I'm a Clinton Republican. And what that means is...
What does that mean?
I go back to the days of the Clinton White House where in today's world they would be considered Republican by NAFTA, by imploring the technology community to grow and doing all the great things they did in America to help our country get to a great position when he left office. That being said, I don't think Hillary knew what she was talking about that day. I think she was confused. Her record in the Senate for business was fantastic.
Well, she's now taking that. She's now walking it back. I misspoke. That was. You knew that was coming.
Well, she was in Massachusetts. You know, that's a tough crowd. Look who she's got there. Elizabeth Warren's hanging around.
Right.
It's a tough.
You're an Elizabeth Warren fan. You think she said the right thing, don't you, Jonathan?
As usual with Hillary Clinton, I think. I don't know that she thinks before she speaks necessarily, and I think she said just like that, what difference at this point does it make? Obviously, she wasn't trying to downgrade Benghazi. She was just saying that making a big deal out of these kinds of details at this point in the game is a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a similar point to what she was making here. Businesses can create jobs, but government
every now and then
but government does create jobs. There's
category.
no question about it. I mean, government between police officers, firefighters, those are government-created jobs. Those are millions and millions
Where
of
do you
jobs.
think the tax money comes from to pay those jobs?
Of course,
you don't have to answer the question.
You, but it does.
Dr. Lee, you are the private
jobs.
medical profession as well. You showed us an innovative product that you brought out earlier in the show. Your take when you hear a candidate like that say such a thing?
I couldn't believe it. So I had to listen to it again online to make sure I heard it correctly. And again, I agree. I don't necessarily think that she really meant what she said. At least that's my hope. Because the reality is, we all know that's not true. That the private sector creates an inordinate number of jobs, and without the private sector growing, then the government doesn't have the resources to do its job.
But what
related to that, let me jump.
growth? It's the government.
Oh, come on,
I'm just saying, government regulations are quite closely related.
Karl
to
Marx
whether or
shows
not-
after this on a
for
different
heaven's
channel.
sake, it's the truth. It's a fact.
Chad Brownstein, you're biting your lip.
That's
you're
the
shaking your head.
truth.
You want to say something real quick? Tell Jonathan the truth.
Are you telling me that government regulations don't have a direct impact on job growth? Because I think even the craziest Tea Partiers believe that.
Yeah, but positive or negative?
It depends on the regulation. I'm just saying they
That's
do
right.
have an impact, let alone the government jobs they themselves create.
All
So
right.
of course they create jobs.
Let's switch gears now, because it's somewhat related. Hillary Clinton, the presumed nominee for the Democratic Party. Now we find out that Jeb Bush says he's more than not likely to run. And we're going to see Karl Rove and the establishment get behind him, the donors get behind him. Let's start with Dr. Bruce Lee. I think America deserves better. We should not have another Bush versus Clinton.
What?
Seen that, done that, why? Why would we want to?
Yeah. Jonathan, it's just, I know you don't like Clinton. I'll take her over Elizabeth Warren, I'll say that.
What?
Really?
Really?
But
Wow.
it's an example of the elite, the elite having power in America on both sides of the aisle.
We might actually agree here. I probably can count on one hand the amount of times that we've agreed and have fingers left over, but I think we agree here. I mean, there's no point in another Bush campaign.
I'm going to switch gears here in the interest of time. And Chad Brownstein, you played college football at the Tulane, is it Green Wave?
Green Wave.
All right, Tulane Green Wave. Big story. A lot of racism in football these days. Washington Redskins, that's a racist name, isn't it, Jonathan?
Of course it is.
It is, of course.
Of course it is.
Navajo High School in Arizona is called the Redskins, the Red Mesa High School Redskins. They're predominantly attended by Navajo families, and they say, we are proud of that name, we love that name, and don't you dare call us Navajo Indians racist. Are they racist?
The American Indian population has the right to choose from their history and their heritage. They have the right to call themselves anything they want. What I'm concerned about is what is causing the current level of interest in the Washington Redskins. Why is everyone so focused on it? And shouldn't we be putting our efforts towards creating jobs, schools, and community growth in the Indian communities rather than focusing our airtime on the name of a football team?
Now let's go to Jonathan. Last time we brought this up, Jonathan, I mentioned to you that we had a Native American Indian who, April Popovich, who said that she was proud of the Washington Redskins. Her family are big Washington Redskins fans going back generations. You said this shows, like every other conservative, they find the one Looney Tune extreme example out there. So is this whole Navajo town in Arizona, are they racist?
I think that when you can find a small group of people, I probably wouldn't call it racist, when you can find a small group of people that are willing to be called something ridiculous to play into a larger narrative, that doesn't mean it's not offensive. Any academic definition of that name is offensive. It's not even up for discussion.
I don't even know what to say. He says the people who are of the Redskin tradition, they want to be called Redskins, and that is ridiculous. I don't know. Your take on this?
It's a matter of context. I think that a term can be taken differently by different people at different times and in different circumstances. But I agree with Chad. What's really important is that the American Indian people have one heck of a lot of health care problems. Huge. If you look at the most poverty-stricken people, that's where you look. If you look at the people who are the unhealthiest group in the United States, that's where you look. That's where the attention needs to be on.
And where we're going to look now is we're out of time. I just want to say this. Our guest last Thursday on the show, Michael Savage, once wrote a book called Liberalism as a Mental Disorder. Jonathan Harris points that out right now.
He meant conservatism.
He underlines why it is.
And he makes that very clear,
those group of Navajo Indian families, their high school students are on the way to a state championship in Arizona. They are proud, and they're saying, we are the Redskin Nation. Leave us alone.
In fact, spite of that name.
In fact, they went to Phoenix, Arizona to protest the protesters against the Washington Redskins. We're out of time. I want to thank our grassroots panel. We now know how he styles his hair. I wouldn't admit it, but he does. Liberal activist, Occupy supporter, Jonathan Harris. I threw that Occupy in. I don't know if you are or not.
You're probably right. You're probably right.
Energy expert, CEO of Rocky Mountain Resources, Chad Brownstein, and Dr. Bruce Lee, world-renowned gynecologist and whistleblower in the healthcare industry. Thanks for being part of our grassroots panel.
Thank you, Rick.
And I want to thank you, our viewers, for watching. We are back at you again tomorrow night. Congressman Duncan Hunter joins me in studio to talk about the story of Middle East terrorists being apprehended at the U.S. border. And now I leave you with my Amato Mio moment of the day. Halloween is this week. And in honor of the holiday, I give you the chainsaw murderer prank.